Hi, this is Baron from Ragic speaking. I will just do my final checks before we start the webinar to see if everything is in working order. I'm streaming from both YouTube Live and Facebook Live. So if you're watching on Facebook, hello. We are Ragic, a database software creator. And if you just have stumbled upon this by chance, then welcome. Today we're going to talk about some cases that our users here from YouTube or Facebook raise us questions, and we'll answer them all, or at least I'll try to answer everyone. And basically, this webinar is more like a college office hour session where we are basically answering questions and building prototypes according to user questions. So let me have a look at, yep, alright, everything looks fine. Alright everyone, so if you have done this before with us, you probably know how it goes. We usually are answering questions that people raise to us, and we basically go through user questions. Alright, so please write to the live chat or I'd be really happy to answer anything you have. Normally we have questions emailed in beforehand. I guess since it's the summer and everyone is a little bit on vacation mode, we have not gotten questions through email before the webinar. So I'm here to answer any case that you have. So if you have like a case that you've been working on but couldn't really crack, I'd be happy to kind of answer all your questions and get things started with your web database. I'd be happy to kind of answer all your questions and get things started with your web database. Alright, so I'm taking questions, and please let me know if you have started with your web database. If you have specific questions, just let me know, because I'm here to answer everything. Let me know if you have started with your web database. Alright everyone, I'll be waiting for your questions. Please write on the live chat on the right side, either from Facebook or YouTube. I'm monitoring them both, and I'll be really happy to answer all the questions and build prototypes on our example database over here, and we'll probably go through a few topics depending on user questions. If it fits with your plan, just let me know the context of what you're building, and then if you have any questions on that, it might be possible to answer through here. Or if it's not really related as well, I'd be still happy to answer any access rights issues. We're still going to have a webinar next week about sharing data with Ragic, and this is very similar to a webinar we had before. It's on user access rights and how to assign user access to different users and user groups. We'll also talk about external users and how they differ from internal users, and basically the whole gist of how the access rights work with user groups. So that might be a nice way to get into Ragic when you're starting to add colleagues into your database. Alright everyone, I'm waiting for your questions, and please don't hesitate to ask me anything through the comments. I'm monitoring both Facebook and YouTube through the live chats, and I'll be answering questions here. Alright, in the meantime, there have been a few new features that have been added, and we're slowly announcing them as we roll them out. So you can now copy field styles while you're designing your database application. So basically what that is there's a small paintbrush icon that you can't really see through this little GIF, but I'll show you how that works if you would like. And there are tasks in Ragic. For the Ragic users who have been with us for a while, I'm sure you have already seen the tasks over here. So when you have a task that you need to complete, then it will show up over here. This includes the approval, and if you've been assigned to something or been asked to review something, you'll also see a little notification pop up over here. So other users can also create tasks for users in the database account. You can also, I think you can also assign yourself tasks if you want to through here. So feel free to use that. For the new field style copying, I'll show you how that works first. It makes things easier when you're designing. Note that this doesn't really copy the formats and formulas that are applied to your database sheet. So let's actually create a very simple sheet to show you how that works. By the way, I'm taking questions still, and if you write to the live chat comments on the right side, if you're on YouTube, it should be on the right side of your screen. If you don't see it, scroll down a little bit and it should be on the right side, right below the video. On Facebook, you know how Facebook comments work, and I'll be answering questions that come through here. And basically, this again is an office hours session, and what we do is we answer and build prototypes according to your questions. So I don't really have a set itinerary or a set program that I'm going through in this webinar. I'm just gonna highlight a couple of newer features that you might not know about, but I'm mainly going to be answering questions. I usually answer more through the emails. This is also new. We haven't really announced it yet. We're gonna roll that out very soon. But if you already see it, you probably have tested it out. When you're designing a new form, there are some quick templates that you can use to just enter fields on Ragic without like having to do this on your own. So we have a few set templates, and this just places fields on your database form design. And basically what you can do is you can modify this and do anything you want with it. So basically what I want is I want the address for the copy style. I want the contact information title to become the same as the address one. So what I do is I select the address one first and click copy styles, and then I'm just clicking on contact information to paste it, and that's it. So this is the new feature for copying field styles. This also works for our regular fields. So if I wanted to make this a different style, like it's bold, it's on the right side instead of the left, and maybe we also have a background color for it, which is, let's choose something that doesn't clash with our green blue thing here. It might be a tone of purple, and let's have a look at how it looks. We also want to make the text white. Alright, so let's say that I made a style like that and would like to apply this on my entire sheet in the first section over here under the contact information. So what I'll do is I'll click copy styles again, and I can actually click to any field to paste that, but that's one field. So if I want to copy to multiple fields, then I'll check this box over here and then apply it on several different fields at once. So that's the new feature. You can test it out. You can have a look and tell us what you think. And basically this is also new. We haven't really announced it yet. It's mostly for, again, pre-making new sheets, and once you create that sheet, you won't see that pop up anymore because that's what you selected, but you can modify your sheet. It only shows up when you are creating a new sheet, and then you are basically using that to kind of create something very quickly. So if I wanted to rename this, I can do that through here. So If I don't want to say contact person, I can just name it contacts and save. So making modifications is quite easy in Ragic. It's just going to the design mode if you're a system administrator and then going in there and dragging things around, or like changing names or whatever you need to do. Alright, so everyone who have just joined through YouTube, I can see that the people have increased. Please, if you have questions on using your Ragic database with your cases, let me know what your question is through the live chat and I will answer them and build prototypes accordingly. So that should be very useful for people who have already started working on their databases, and if you are actually trying to create something but can't really figure out which linking type you want to use, or you have a problem you need to solve or can't figure out a formula, we can all do it today. Alright, so please let me know through the live chat. I'll be waiting. Alright, so that's the paste styles thing. This doesn't actually really fit my style here, so I can actually copy a blank style and then paste it over here. So if I want to do that to every field, I just click everything after checking that box. So don't forget to click on the one you're copying first. It's basically like the brush tool in Excel as well. They also have a paste styles. And right now this only does the physical styling. It doesn't really add default fields or formulas like you would normally, but it's pretty useful for the form design aspect. And people keep asking me, no, we don't really have a way to copy fields entirely in their entirety yet. So that should be something that you can send as a feature request into our support ticket system, and our developers, if there is a higher demand, our developers might be interested in implementing that. This is actually true for most cases. So if you have a feature that you would actually like to see in Ragic, please don't hesitate to email us, because we listen to users' feedback all the time, and it should be quite simple for us to try implementing something and talking to you guys to see what is actually being wanted as a feature, and we try to implement them if they are in high demand. Alright, so one of the other newer features in Ragic is for older users who have been with us for a while, you can now you can now change things globally, like the number and date formats, but this again is only been done by the system administrator. So if you're in the UK and don't really want to see $signs for monetary fields, then you can change it into a pound. Or if you are in Europe and the date format is different, the default is the US one with your month and day. I think that's the US one anyway. If you are using a different format type, then you don't really have to edit this all the time. You can just go in and change the global setting now through the account setup over at the menu. Anthony is asking, is there a proper way to email entries? Sometimes the email doesn't get delivered. So Anthony, yes, there is a way to email entries. For example, if I had an entry here, such as, let me just add a contact, Acme and whatnot. So imagine this is a full form, and when you use tools, email this entry, it will basically send this as an email to a recipient. So let's test this out by using we can use my email. And basically this inserts like everything in the form, so you don't really have to really worry about how it looks or edit anything unless you want to write things in here. You can also CC people. Let's just preview this because I don't really need to send this. Basically the subject is gonna be automatically generated, but you can change the subject as well, and the email content is basically what people see in the form as an HTML version of that of the form contents. So you're saying that sometimes the email doesn't get delivered. Can you kind of go into that? Do you have any cases? Because like if I send here, it will say sent, and then I can actually click on you'll see on your entry that the email icon pops up if you do this, and basically that is your email that is sent on the right side. So you can actually reply to that as well. And basically, let me actually open my email so that you can see how it looks like when it's delivered. So I think that goes into my notifications because I have a filter. Yeah, there you go. So what happens is if the user is receiving too many emails from Ragic, maybe their email box is filtering them into a different folder, or maybe they added a folder, because that's what I did. We're using Google for Business, and this basically I added a custom filter that takes all the notification at mgragic.com emails to somewhere else, because I received tons of them. We internally use Ragic a lot for everything, so that's what I did. And well, depends on like what people are using Ragic for, or if they are just an external person, then it might be different on their mailbox settings. So we don't really have a delivery notification system built in. We only have the sending, and if you are using the ticketing system template, then you can actually receive emails on Ragic too. So I'd be curious on hearing what you're thinking. So for the people uninitiated, Anthony, while you're replying, I'm just gonna talk about our email ticketing system. For the people who don't know, we actually have templates that you can install to your database account. So these are multi-sheet templates, and we have the email ticketing for support. And basically what you can do with this is you are given an email that you can add into your mail group, and then you basically receive all tickets that are sent to your own ticketing support at your website.com, and you can reply tickets through there and then have a better rounded ticket replying system within Ragic. So Anthony is saying, in my view, when I start email entry, there's a recipient pre-populated, but it's a JPEG. Anthony, if you want, you can probably take screenshots of what you're doing and then how it's showing up as a JPEG. That's really odd. So if you email support at Ragic about that, we probably will be able to answer you better in your case, because it shouldn't really work like that. So again, it's support@ragic.com, and I'll write it here. So I hope that helps. I mean, usually when you email an entry, that's what happens. If you are using mass email, that's a different it's an entirely different thing. So basically, if you have an email field on Ragic, and that has to be an email field on the field type. And then you can actually email people through here. So basically I have one contact over here and I don't really have her email, but let's make one up. Ragic.com. Alright, so that's her email, that's my contact, and if I want to email all my contacts or a certain amount of contacts that I filter according to, for example, their city or something, this can be for a campaign, this can be for something different, you can use the send mass email. So this is for when you don't really want to email the contents of your database, but when you want to email people that are in your data, stored in your database, and you can pick the email field over here, and then you can basically write a body of the email and then send it to multiple contacts at the same time. So that's very useful if you want to like send out mass email newsletters or something like that. And we actually just added user guides for that, so I'll copy paste that for you guys in one of our user guides. There you go. So we have a section called emailing or Ragic underneath our user guide, and I'll just paste it on our YouTube channel, and if you want you can have a look. Alright, Anthony is asking, is there a way to track hits or activity to your Ragic site? Not really. What we are providing is not really a website management system, but a database management system. So you can probably only track your database speed from your end, depending on your machine, but you can't really track hits or activity. If you are embedding though, if you are embedding your Ragic database form or like a list with any of the embed tools over here, so for example, if someone wants to view all my contacts, I can embed my entire contacts list on my web page, and then you can track activity on your web page. So I hope that helps. If you really want like some fine-tuned tracking tools, there are a lot out there. The most known is probably Google Analytics, and you can basically implement that on your own website and then embed your Ragic database or parts of it to there. Alright. Anyone else have any questions? Or Anthony, do you have any more questions? I will be glad to build prototypes accordingly. Anthony's asking, thanks. Next question. If we link two forms, can a connected value populate instead of having the user pick an entry? I think I know what you mean. So basically there are a few types of linking to use, and well, I guess we can go all over them because it's not very long to explain. So basically we have a few types of linking, and I think what you're talking about is the link and load where the user has to pick an entry. So can I delete this? No, I can't. Alright, so I'll delete this sheet and then build a few basic ones to kind of make my point. So alright, let's say we have a contact sheet, like customers. And then we have, okay, well, I'll just create a new tab. Alright, so let me create a contact sheet over here. And let's have a contact ID that Ragic can generate for me with like C1234 and then their name and basically their phone and email, let's say. So that's one sheet, alright, with very basic fields. If I create a contact named Jane Doe, it's gonna have her phone number and then her email address, which is like jane@example.com. Alright, so that's one contact. And let's say we have a product sheet over here. So let's create a sales tab over here. So I'm going to connect all these sheets together, so I have to kind of create these products. So this is also going to be a bare bones. Okay, this is getting annoying. Let's see. This is my previous account. Okay, I know what happened. It's because I deleted a tab in the sheet and then I'm trying to create the ones with the same name. And basically, this is what happens. I'm going to report this. Alright, so I'll create a products sheet with the product ID, name, and the price. Alright, so what you were talking about is probably what we usually use for linking sheets together when they need to have one thing in common and then the next things are going to be loaded from one sheet to another. So for the people who don't know what linkings are, I'm just going to talk about it very shortly and then we're going to move on to Joshua's question. Alright, so let's say sports shoe and then the price is like $50 and then another product can be tissues and then the price can be $2. Alright, so those are my products and I also have a contact over here, Jane Doe. So what we want to do with these sheets can be, we can create a quote or a sales order form that takes information from both my contact and the products sheet. So actually, I think I can do this with Joshua's question. So Joshua is asking, is it possible to have a subtable with the following? A column with unique product IDs, then a column with multiple rows within each unique product ID with specifics for each product. So what Joshua is talking is probably yeah, can you explain that a little bit more while I'm talking about linking? Because is it like a sub SKU kind of thing, or do you want different different fields showing up in the subtable? Please explain that and I will come back to your question. Alright, so let's create a new tab. You don't really actually have to create a new tab every time. It's just for organizing purposes. So you can actually have one tab and have all your sheets under it. It's mostly like a folder that you use for your database. Alright, so the new sheet can be called a sales order. And this is what Anthony was talking about. So it's basically what we do is if we have a sales order number, and a date field that is for this sheet, sales order number. So this is an auto-generated field that Ragic can generate for me, and a date field that can actually be defaulted to today. So the date you are entering the data in. So basically these are my two fields that are unique to my sales order right now, and I want to link the customers so that so that I can actually select a customer. So that's what Anthony was talking about. He doesn't really want to do this in some cases. So in here, I am selecting the customer, and then the customers, I'm basically selecting the customer ID, and their corresponding information is filling up. And for the products, this is what Joshua was talking about. So this is basically a subtable, because my products can be multiple on a sales order form, because people tend to buy more than one product, so we don't really have to worry about that when we link things in a subtable. So you can see that I just ignored where the value was going to be and linked them side by side. So this is a subtable. So it's basically a table within my form where I can add multiple products, and as I add more products into the subtable, it will expand. So you don't really have to worry about space either. So let's test this out. Basically, I can select a contact by double clicking on the contact ID, and then select the products that are going to be sold. So I can add multiples. So as you can see, if I had more like products being added, this subtable is just expanding downwards. So I'm just going to delete these two because we only have 2 products, so it doesn't really make sense to do that. Anyway, so what to do to calculate what the price is going to be in the end that the customer is going to pay, we will probably need to add a quantity of how many sets of tissues they're buying, how many pairs of sports shoes they're buying. So we need the quantity here, and we probably want a subtotal for each line item, and then we can add a grand total on the sales order form. So basically it's like an invoice. Quantity, and this is going to be a number that we're going to enter, and then subtotal. So this is where we are going to add a formula. I'm just deleting some decimal points because I don't need them in the formatting. We're going to add a formula. So since we're referring to subtable fields, I only need to refer to the blue part, which is the subtable header. That is to ensure that I don't really need to copy formulas in different rows each time like you do in a spreadsheet software. Alright, so basically what I'm doing is C9 times D9 is going to be my subtotal for each row. And a grand total, I'm not doing taxes on here, so if you have to do that, you can add that into the equation, but basically I'm going to just point to E9 to get the total of my subtotals. Alright, so I'm saving that, and let's test it out with the entry we were just working on. So let's say that she buys 15 packs of tissues, which makes $30, and 1 pair of sports shoes, which is 50, and you can see that the calculations are done automatically. So what Anthony was asking, can a connected value populate instead of having the user pick an entry? So if you're using this case, no, not really. But if you are using another case, for example, if you want to see all orders that Jane Doe had done before, then you can do it because you already have this connection. So since we used link and load to build this connection where we have to select a contact ID, on my contact sheet I can just add the reverse. So if we go to the form page and go to the design mode, from the form tools, I can show references from existing sheets. So this can only be done in this case where I already have a link to a corresponding sheet. So I'm picking sales order, and you can see I can drag and drop something over here. And I'm just gonna want the sales order number, the date, and the grand total for her previous orders because I already have her main fields over here. So I'm gonna insert that and save, and you'll see that immediately you'll see the sales order associated to Jane's order is populated automatically under here. So this method is only for view only when you're using the reference subtable. Alright, so this is one method. You can actually edit that to have this. You know, when I hover on it, it shows me the sales order entry. It's a hassle to click this little icon every time I want to go to that related sales order, but you can do it. Basically what I want to do is to add a link over here, so every time I can just click on that link to go to the related sales order. So if you want to do that, you can go to Form Tools. You'll see the sales order is already linked, so there's a little gear icon next to it. Click that, and then you can select the sales order number to become a link to go to that related sheet. And basically that became a link. You can click on that to go to that sales order. So as you have many sales orders for each customer, it's going to make it so much easier to just go to a related thing. So that's one method. There is also another method where you can generate a new sheet from your subtable. So basically that's mostly if you want to enter data from both places. So for example, if I wanted to enter product information that was going to be sold from another full sheet instead of the subtable, then I can generate a new sheet from a subtable. There are different uses for that as well. There's also multiple versions, which is great if you want to have different versions of the same sheet. Basically what that does is it shares data. So if I wanted to have some contacts for example, if I had a store structure where I have VIP contacts, I can use a sheet. In my sheet, I can use a field to show if they are VIP or not. So basically this is a selection field where I only have one option to show if they're a VIP customer. And let's say Jane Doe is VIP, and then John Doe is not a VIP person. John Doe over here is not one of my VIP customers. Their email is john@example.com. Alright, so basically what I can do is, if I only want to show my a certain group of my salespersons who actually have the job to cater to VIP people only, I can duplicate the sheet with multiple versions with the same data source on the new sheet. And what that does is it creates the same sheet, but I can rename this to become VIP copy, and then VIP customers, for example. And then let's say that you can add more fields to this sheet design, and it won't really affect the other one. But if I change Jane Doe, if she gets married, for example, and changes her last name and becomes Jane Smith, then when I save this entry, then it's going to affect my contact over here. So you don't really have to edit everything on different sheets, and you can actually add a fixed filter over here. So if I filter VIP yes, it's only going to show Jane. If I have hundreds and thousands of customers, for example, and only like 150 are VIP customers, but your salespeople are only supposed to contact VIP customers, then you can add a fixed filter and submit that, and that basically is something they cannot remove from the sheet, and they will only be able to see the VIP customers. So there are a few different uses for that. I think if you're trying to create something, you can kind of describe what you are trying to do, and then we can put you to the correct linking option, because everyone is designing something else. So Joshua has explained what he's trying to do a little further. So he wants to list each product ID once in cell A with an adjacent cell B listing the components and quantities, then the next cell C with a single value summing up the quantities from cell B. Would you like to give an example? Like, what's a product, for example? Is it a car part with different components and quantities, for example? If you kind of give an example, it would be easier for me to understand. And oh, he's actually writing The product ID is a single lab sample with multiple components. Each component has varying quantities, and you would like to create a total from these quantities for each product ID. So you want to use that as a product ID, so it will be unique. Are you sure it will be unique when you're creating the product ID? Because the point of the ID is to differentiate fields from each other, records from each other. So you kind of want to make sure that no two lab sample is the same. In your case, if it is the same, you probably want to have a separate ID that will do that, even if the lab sample's product ID is the same in some cases. So let's see. So I'll show you an example and then you can apply that to your lab samples. But if you want to clarify further, I'm all ears, alright? So let's create a new sheet under products and lab sample. Alright, so why do you want to have that as a subtable though? Can you kind of explain that as well? Because each component has varying quantities. You want to create a total from those quantities. You'd like to list each product ID once in cell A. Alright, yeah, that should make sense if you describe it a little more, but basically we can do a product ID. So this is not a subtable, but the same principle is basically going to be for a subtable as well. So if I have a product ID, component A, component B, and component C is gonna have like all different values, and you kind of want to generate the product ID from the values on here. So if I write A is like 10, B is red, and C is circle, you probably want the product ID to be 10 red circle, right? So what we do is we have the string formula you can use for that, which is basically A1 plus, A2 plus, so it's going to take the value inside A2. Again, we're referring to the field headers, not where the value is going to be. I know you're going to put the value in B2, but basically we always point to where the field header is so that there is no confusion in the system. Alright, so A2 plus A3 plus, so the quotes I'm putting is just a space between each word. You don't really have to use that. If you had put plus just in between, then you would not have that space. Alright, so and component C is A4. And basically, that's my formula that I can apply. When you're designing, you don't really have to apply this formula, but that's the fastest way for Ragic to calculate what I already did on here. So when I exit this after saving, this A1 will already be calculated for me. So you can see that it shows 10 red circle for me. So the same principle is applicable for subtables. So if you had like comp A, comp B, and comp C, and then like ID, then you can do the same thing. So the ID can actually be A6 plus, again I'm using the field headers, B6 plus B6, and then another space, and then C6. So that will give me an ID for each different sample. If you're keeping that in a subtable, for example, then I can do like 11 blue square, and then for example here can be 34 yellow rectangle. So you can see that the ID is generated for each row in this case because we applied the formula to the subtable. Does that make sense, Joshua? Can you kind of apply that, or did you mean something a little bit else? So you can actually refer to a different field if you're using a subtable. So for example, if you had a master experiment ID that you need to have inside the component ID, then for component A on our subtable, we can actually refer to the product ID over here. So if I used A1 here, it will basically generate a 10 red circle on here, and then I can use like pink and then star over here. Does that make sense? So if you have a number, for example, a timestamp or something. Alright, so you're experimenting on mold. We then ID every mold in the sample, each with a quantity. Finally, we sum up all of the quantities to obtain a grand total of all the types of mold. Yeah, so basically, if you're using numbers, then just use a numeric field. For example, let's say mold type, and then you can have like quantity, right? And then alright, your subtable has multiple lab samples. Yeah, so basically all the types can basically be listed in a selection field. So if you had, for example, mold A, mold B, mold C, mold D, for example, you have 4 types, let's say, and then the quantity can be something you just enter over here, and then you can like sum all mold. So you probably need to specify like quantity grams or quantity milligrams or whatever you are using for that. So yeah, okay, you do that already. So okay, so so for the people who don't know, you can just add a formula over here that sums B11. And basically when I add mold, it will kind of give a sum. Well, this is a string formula, so this is supposed to be a numeric field so that it will sum it all up correctly. So let's save that and then enter data. There we go. So that should be a numeric field. Does that make sense? So you have multiple components, and I'm sure like the subtable is going like long or something. But yeah, you can sum like different. You can basically just refer to the fields that you have over there and then like take a total sum if you want. So if I had like X component grams and then Y component as grams and then Z component as grams, then you basically have to probably do a numeric field for all of them. And just make sure that you have the correct decimal thing. I'm just like writing this format which doesn't have any decimal points. So the sum can be the entire total, so that can be in the formula B11 plus C11 plus D11. Or you can have a subtotal of the mold type and then just refer to E11 with that. So this can be I'll actually take this formula and put it here, and this can be the sum of E11 instead. Sample 1 has 2 types of mold, sample 2 has Okay, Joshua is saying that sample, for example, there are 3 samples. Sample 1 has 2 types of mold, sample 2 has 3 types of mold, and sample 3 has 1 type of mold. Each mold type has their own quantity. Yeah. Joshua, you can feel free to, elaborate here because we don't really have much participation. So feel free to just, if you want to, I'm not sure if you can post links in the comments, but if you want to, you can share a screenshot of what you already done, because I know it's a specific case and I'm really up to helping you and creating what you are trying to do. Yeah, so that would be a different type of thing. You can share your database, but only if you want me to access your database now, you have to make sure that there is nothing there that the public cannot see. So yeah, you can share your database with our support team by going to this need help link on the upper right side of your database. So for people who cannot see my mouse, I'll just mark it. See the little circle? So there's a need help link over here. Let me just save this and quit. That you can click, and then you can submit a support ticket and grant Ragic support access to your account, and then we can have a look. If you don't want to do it publicly, then you can just write the ticket and then we'll have a look. If you don't mind people seeing this, and this video is being recorded, so in the future, if you don't mind people seeing it as well, you can tell me in the chat, and then I can go into your database now and have a look. So if that's okay with you, just let me know if you're here, because I'm not entirely sure. If you think it's a better idea, we can arrange a time to do a web conference so that we can both share screens. Alright, so anyone else in the meantime, if you have any questions through Facebook or YouTube, I'm kind of watching the chat and seeing how I can answer questions. Alright, Joshua, take a screenshot. Let's have a look. Yeah, it's a little bit hard to describe, isn't it, when you're actually working on something very specialized and then trying to, tell someone about your work is different as to building a system for it and trying to explain what you're doing. So we get these cases a lot, actually. Just the other day I was talking to somebody who has a jewelry store, and they basically have a whole system on how they manage their inventory. So everyone's case is different. Even though the basic principles of data keeping is the same, what you're designing for your own database is going to be different. So this is why we try to help out everyone as much as we can with designing their database, so that they can be on the right track and to learn how to make changes on their own when they need to. That's why I really like Ragic as a versatile tool, because if you're working on the database yourself, then you can go in and edit anything anytime you're not really happy with it, or if you need to add new things, then it's probably easier. Joshua, if the if the YouTube live chat does not accept screenshots or links, just email it to our support email address. It's support@ragic.com. Anyone else? We are almost running out of time for today. We only have 8 minutes left. If we cannot resolve Joshua's question over here, I'm going to talk with him later. But if you have any questions that I can build a prototype for, please let me know now. Alright, I'm waiting for your questions. Alright, so sample 3 samples. Yeah, I think I know what he means, but what I have in mind might not be the most efficient way to resolve it, so I would like further clarification on his case. Alright, so everyone, just a reminder, I am going to have another webinar next week on the 27th, so it's the same day, Thursday, and same time actually, it's at 1:30 p.m. EST. It's going to be about sharing your data with Ragic. So if you have like colleagues that are going to be on your database, or that there are external people who you're going to share data with, then just let us know through basically we're going to be talking about sharing data in a lot of different ways. Alright, Joshua, thank you too. I mean, I'll try answering as soon as possible to the email, and it's an interesting case you got there. So I think what you mean is like to having like subcategories within the subtable. So I'll just let you know that that is not possible, but something very similar you probably can do by implementing either a new sheet from the subtable, or if you want to like display all the information, then you probably need to list the sample several times. So we'll try figuring out the most efficient way of doing that work, because you don't want to do data entry all the time. You want to cut the time that you're doing like selections and like entering data all the time. So we'll have a look at that. Alright, everyone else, do you have any questions? In the meantime, I'll, on my other screen, look at Joshua's screenshot. No, I haven't received it yet. Alright, everyone. Again, I need to remind you that we are going to have another webinar next week, and I haven't really planned the ones for August yet. We might have lesser webinars because it's going to be the summer, and right. So, but if you have any comments on the webinars and what we're doing right now, or you have suggestions on future webinar topics, just let me know. Write me an email through baron@ragic.com, or leave a comment, because I can basically see comments on our YouTube channel as well. So if you think of something, just let us know later, and I'll consider like adding that to our curriculum, because we're mostly for the past 2 months we've basically focused on simpler webinar topics that everyone needed a refresher on. So we might move into more advanced or like non-generalized topics in the future as well. So if you have suggestions, just let me know in the comments below. Or if you would like to email me, you can email me anytime at baron@ragic.com. Again, it's BERRIN@ragic.com. No questions from anyone? Still waiting. Alright, Joshua and Anthony, thank you both very much for contributing with your questions. Sure, Joshua, the email is support@ragic.com, and the other, my personal email on my company email is baron@ragic.com, and you can email both. I'll basically try responding as soon as possible. I usually look at support@ragic.com more often, so keep that in mind. And everyone else, thank you for watching, and if you have any other questions, again, these two email addresses are the best way to contact me. And if you're building something, or if you're new to Ragic, you're just building a new database, you can always contact us at support.ragic.com. If we can't really respond with email, or emailing back and forth isn't really for you, you can arrange with one of our consultants or me to like go into a web conference with you. We can do screen sharing and have a look at your database and what you're doing, what you're trying to do, or what's the ideal way of doing data management for your uses. We can basically look at it and give advice accordingly, or work on it together. Alright, everyone, again, thank you so much for joining. This is the end of our webinar, and again, if you have any other questions, please email us. Alright, have a great day, everyone. Thank you, and bye.